Oi, Budge!
Today on Budge, we talk human evolution, and specifically, we talk something that every single one of us does. Well, unless you're Prince Andrew, apparently. Yes, it's sweating. It's played a huge role in the evolution of humans and why we're such a successful species. Find out more on Budge, how to fudge being human, and make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're listening.
One of those things that you just like, you're so grateful for that it's not passed down. You know, it's like, oh, you're going to pass me down either baldness or being super hairy. I'll take the baldness.
Actually, there's a stigma about sweating, even though it's the thing that's made us what we are. And yet, imagine having oily, greasy sweat coming off your
If
thing.
we didn't have sweat, if we didn't sweat, we probably wouldn't have evolved the way we have. Is that what you're saying?
Our heart beats faster, adrenaline's released, and we're getting ready to cool off so that we can run away or fight with someone.
Welcome to Budge, How to Fudge Being Human, the podcast that helps you figure out how to be better at being human. My name's Paul Miles, and I am joined, as always, by Dr. Darren Copping, behavioural scientist. How are you, sir?
I'm very good, Paul. How are you today? You're looking lovely.
Am I glowing?
You're yes, like a lady.
It's we usually in the recent weeks been getting lots of fantastic guests on our show, but for some reason
Weirdly.
we can't get people on to talk about their sweating habits.
Yes.
So today's episode is why do humans sweat? No sweat, the secret human superpower. Mate, why do you want to talk about this?
Well, I think it's a massively underestimated and under-discussed thing, and in particular, underappreciated.
Underappreciated.
Yes.
We should appreciate sweating more.
We should, because it is a sign of being human, but it's probably contributed massively, probably one of the greatest contributors to us being human in total. When you think what separates us from even other primates, other animals.
I was going to go with brain capacity, cognition, that sort of thing, but you're going with sweat.
Upright walking, that sort of thing, opposable thumbs. I oppose you. But sweating's up there with it, and it's massive.
All right, mate. What's sweat and sweating got to do with being human, psychology, and brains?
Yeah, well, it is absolutely central. And
I just realised.
Yeah.
Given that this is one of those episodes where it's just you and I, we can actually try the new buttons on our new machine.
In particular, when you say something funny. No, really, what happens in social situations when you say something funny? Perfect. Brilliant. So, sweating.
Sorry, yes, what you got to do with
yes. Sweating. Sweating's massive because sweating is one of the greatest contributors in making us human, because what it allowed us to do is become persistence hunters. And it's kind of this upward spiral.
So whoa. A persistence hunter?
Yes.
What is that?
Well, it's where you can run and run and run.
I actually know this because this is humans. We're actually not designed for sprinting. We are literally designed to run across long distances, right, to get our food. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly that.
Okay.
So you can run down a cheetah and kill it quite easily at the end of it. And it was thought to be some sort of, not an urban myth, a savannah myth, where 3 or 4, say, Maasai warriors running abreast could... I saw that look in your eyes when I said abreast.
I said nothing.
It's the look in your eye. But can hunt down a cheetah. It will run off and sprint off out of reach, because it won't attack you if there's 3 or 4 of you abreast, because you're too larger an animal, if you like.
Oh, really?
But it will run off and then get exhausted very quickly. It will keep running as you keep on jogging up towards it. And after a relatively short amount of time, I think it was just over a mile or something, the cheetah would be absolutely exhausted. You could just club it over the head.
In fairness, so would I. Anyway.
With 3 blokes jogging after you incessantly.
Wait to club me.
But it's true, even with normal hunting, because cheetahs aren't that good for eating, they're pretty skinny. But with antelopes, and even when you hunt them, you rarely get a kill shot. They don't drop down. So you have to keep jogging after them.
and eventually within 5 miles, an antelope will generally just collapse exhausted.
Oh, really?
And a lot of the reason for that is because they and any other animal in the world does not sweat as efficiently as a human.
I was going to bring you back to this. Okay, so humans sweat, therefore we can do this long distance. So how does sweat enable us to run long distances?
Well, it cools us. Now, the brain it uses up 20 times more energy in our bodies than any other organ. And sweating keeps our brain cool. But to have a big brain, you need to consume high calorific foods, which meat is, because it's got calories and lots of fats in. And efficiently, if we eat herbivores, well, they've taken all of the grass and they've processed it for us. And so eating meat is a really efficient way. So it's kind of this upward spiral, or what came first, sweating and being able to endurance hunt other animals, because we are puny. You know, chimpanzees, something like any estimate between 3 and 5 times stronger than us. And faster than us. So humans are puny. So how do we end up eating meat and defeating these animals that are bigger, stronger, faster than us? And it's through being able to sweat. And sweat keeps us cool, which makes our brains bigger and cleverer to do things. And having bigger brains means that we need to sweat more. So we even lost our hair about 1.2 million years ago as a hominid.
No, it was about 20 years ago, mate.
But losing our hair enables us to sweat better. That's why we're the naked ape.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So is that why we are naked? Is because of the sweat? Is that right?
Yeah, but what's really peculiar...
You never met my dad, have you? Honestly, you go on a beach with him on holidays in France and there'd be people chasing after him with a net.
Why?
He's just so hairy. It's one of those things that you just like, you're so grateful for that it's not passed down. You know, it's like, oh, you're going to pass me down on the baldness or being super hairy. I'll take the baldness.
All right. Fair enough. Normally it's both, though, isn't it? You lose the hair on your head, and testosterone is one of the contributors of that, but then you have a particularly hairy body.
So my bald spot is due to my high testosterone.
Yeah.
Boom.
Nice.
I didn't know this.
No, it's allegedly
I'm sticking with that.
One of the contributors.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, but what's interesting is that we only started using tools that we've found through archaeology and paleoarchaeology is for the last 200,000 years. It's like spears or stone heads or stone axes. So what do we do between that 1.2 million years ago, when we lost our hair to facilitate more efficient sweating and persistence hunting? So we were persistence hunting.
Can I guess?
For 1 million years without tools.
Without tools?
It was just chasing things down and then clubbing them.
Oh, I see.
Or
okay.
whatever.
Right. Okay. Got this.
Yeah. But it's fascinating. So being able to eat meat and higher calories due to our sweating is actually made us human. And advanced our evolution.
So literally, if we didn't sweat, we probably wouldn't have evolved the way we have. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it enabled and facilitated the growth of our bigger brains.
Given that sweating then is such a core part of being human, literally, by the sound of what you're saying to me, and it's related so much to our evolution, why is it considered so horrible and gross?
Yeah, it's considered gross. It's weird because it is. And there's something...
We should, you know, when someone's really stinky then and sweaty, we should be like, oh, you'd make a fantastic hunter.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to, whoa, you stink.
Yeah. But it's weird. But I think the clues in the reason why the people we admire, we say, oh, you're cool. And you think, well, why? Where does that come from? And being cool means that you're not under threat and you're in control of a situation. And so you're not sweating, you're not having to run. It means that you've been provided for, and you feel safer with that person. So we like coolness in people.
Sorry, Darren, to interrupt you, but so those stressful situations, and in your case, you know, you're being interviewed by the police and they say to you, excuse me, sir, you appear to be sweating a lot, everything okay? Do we actually? That was my impression of a policeman, by the way. I've got many fantastic impressions. I'll pull them all out for you one day. You'll be like, is that Paul? I can't be. So, do we sweat then when we're stressed?
Yeah, it's part of the fight or flight response. So basically, our heart beats faster, adrenaline's released, and we're getting ready to cool off so that we can run away or fight with someone. So yeah, it's absolutely so.
Run away.
Yeah, but the thing is, you overthink it. You get in this loop of thinking, "Oh God, I'm sweating. Oh no, that's making me more nervous and anxious, which makes me sweat more." So it's a really scary. It's a horrible loop. And we do consider it gross, but there's a lot of animals that have to cool off in different ways that are even more gross.
Yeah.
So we all know dogs pant and drool.
Yeah.
And that's the evaporative effect that we have with moisture on our arms. Dogs have. But I think I looked up another couple that vultures.
Can I take guesses on these?
Go on then.
So how do vultures don't sweat? They do something else.
Yes.
Do they fly really high or something?
No, that would be logical, but then again, it uses a lot of heat generating energy to get up there.
They fly really low. No, that wouldn't. No.
This is something I've seen you do to try and be cool on a night out. Shall I save you here?
Yeah, you should. Yeah.
They poo on their legs. and similarly, seals, if they're feeling
seals, hang on, I'm going to guess this one again. But they just get in the water, surely.
Yeah, if they're not getting in the water, they urinate on their own feet.
Runners do that, don't they? Runners do that. Long distance runners to win marathons and stuff. They actually go to the toilet as they're running.
Yes.
Yeah,
and there's something in the action of running and the processing of food that actually makes you more likely to have diarrhea in the meantime. Something I've never experienced clearly.
Yes, sort of running. You've never experienced running.
Yeah.
So what we're saying then is these other animals have found alternative ways to cool down.
Yes.
This is probably far too deep a question then as to why they didn't evolve when we did because of sweating, if they have got these mechanisms to cool down.
Yeah, but they're nowhere near as efficient. So if you think of other animals that sweat well, the next nearest, compared to a couple of primates, but we are by far the best sweaters.
Really? Go humans, boom.
Yes.
Look at us.
Horses. And horses actually have 4 times more sweat glands per square centimetre than us, about 800. Whereas we've got 200, but we actually sweat 5 times more than a horse. So we actually have more endurance than a horse even.
Really? Really?
Yeah.
I'm not responding to that one. But hang on, horses can literally, take us across long distance far better than humans can, right?
No, only if they're sort of walking quite slowly. At a gallop, we can actually go further.
We can actually jog, can't we? Massive distance.
Slower, but then eventually we'll surpass.
Okay, fascinating.
Yeah.
All right. And what about between males and females, mate? Is there any difference there?
What do you reckon? Do you think men sweat more than women?
We've got to sweat more because men smell worse, right?
Well, they're different smells. So men tend to have what's known as a cheesy smell.
Where's this podcast going, mate? This is just awful.
We're
not going to put this in public.
From your armpit. I don't know where it's going to. But ladies have an oniony smell due to the different components of smell. But men do sweat more than women. So even though we've got the exact same number of sweat glands, they've done a test, this study in Japan. Even the same size and weight and fitness of men, all other things being equal, the men sweated more than the women.
Do we know why?
No. There are a couple of...
That was great research.
The end. Yeah. No, but actually, well, the research was to work out who sweated the most. And there are a couple of theories that the men tend to be the hunters.
Yeah.
Women need to retain moisture to be better nurturers and mothers. If they've got kids, so there's a couple of reasons. So it's really about stamina in the sun. And if you think about it, if you think of the savannah and the hot weather, it's only really humans that go out and about in it. Mad dogs and Englishmen.
Yeah.
And everything else is in the shade, so we can just go up to things and club them, and we can survive. But in terms of men and women, it's only hypothesized, but it's probably because we did more hunting and the ladies did more nurturing.
I think it's generally accepted that we all came from Africa, right? Humans, yeah?
Universally, I'd say.
Yeah.
Well, other than the landed by aliens.
Well, and I suppose, and the creation one as well, which anyway, I'll move on quickly from that. We all come from Africa. When we left Africa then and we sort of traipsed all over the globe, did that help us develop in that way in terms of moving, across the globe and sort of finding new prey and food sources and all that sort of thing?
Actually, it's interesting. You would say that sweating enables us to operate in any climate.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't have to sweat. You still do sweat even if it's cold, even if you're in the Arctic Circle.
Really?
There's an element of sweat. And I didn't realise until last year that when we lose weight, it's basically we kind of breathe.
Yeah, you breathe it out.
But I thought we kind of sweated it out.
No, I actually knew that. It's another thing I did randomly.
Yeah, brilliant.
Thank you.
But did you know in the last couple of weeks there have been these studies and an accidental discovery in mice where they've been trying to uncover or trying to test a drug for diabetes type 2.
Yeah, and this is the weight loss drug.
Yeah.
Which is now the most popular drug in the world. It's insane.
What? Which one's this?
I can't remember the name of it, but there's a diabetes drug they've discovered will actually help with massive weight loss. Is this one?
Yeah, well, this is the one, but it's only been in the mice because they noticed the mice were losing weight, but kind of would look shiny and oily.
Yeah.
And they've discovered even
do you know the name of the drug?
No, because it hasn't been named or commercially.
Oh, it's different
released.
drug. Different drug. Then apologies.
This one's even more. But do you remember in about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, in Boots, they had this drug.
Boots being a chain of chemists, pharmacies in the UK.
Pharmacies, and you could get these little tablets that you could take, and it stopped you absorbing oils and fats.
No, I do not remember this.
But if you had too many, they would leak out of your derriere, your bottom area, and it was a massive thing. It says it stops fats being absorbed into your body, but the trouble is it came out your backside. So you're commuting to work with oily patches at the back of your skirt.
So what happened to this drug? I assume it was abandoned, or was it even approved?
I haven't seen or heard of it in 10 years since I
Well, like a fad or something. Okay.
Yeah, because it works, but the side effects were too embarrassing. And you think about this side effect. So you say there's a stigma about sweating, even though it's the thing that's made us what we are. And yet imagine having oily, greasy sweat coming off of you. So it's brilliant. We've got this wonder drug that will make me lose substantial amounts of weight. But the only side effect is I'm walking around absolutely sweating, oily sweat all the time. So it might not take off.
Yeah, possibly. Isn't it interesting that there could be a major health thing, but we don't want to take benefit because we're embarrassed socially?
Yeah, that's the key driver. It will make you sweat even more because you're embarrassed with your oily sweat.
I asked you earlier about those times when you're sat with the police and they say you're sweating. So what about this whole notion that your palms sweat?
Yeah, actually it's weird because your palms and your feet sweat. In fact, your feet have more sweat glands per square centimetre than any other part of the human body. And you think, well, what's the advantage of that? But apparently that moderate amount of sweat makes your palms or your hands and your feet grip better.
Really? That's counterintuitive to me. I thought you'd be more slippy.
Slippy, yeah, but it's not that excessive amount. And if you think about, well, actually we're either climbing trees or rocks or running on dirt, it actually gives us better purchase. So that's the point of sweaty palms. So we do have sweaty palms, sweaty feet. And it's also why if you're hot in bed, the easiest way of getting comfortable is just sticking your feet out the bottom of the duvet and you cool off quicker.
Ah, okay.
You're loving all these facts about sweat. They're changing your life.
I love facts. If you could find me a fact about language, then hang on. Why? I'm so glad you wrote down sweating like a pig as opposed to sweating like a Welshman. I was expecting to see that somewhere. So, mate, why do we say sweating like a pig?
Why is it weird to say that?
No, why do we say it? It's the strangest thing to say. Sweating. I figured because pigs are generally regarded as being unhealthy and overweight, I suppose. And that's why I've always figured that's why we say that phrase.
That's what I thought. And when you look at Wiki Google, it actually comes up with an explanation.
Is that where you do all your research, Darren?
Basically, and the Daily Mail.
I can't believe the amount of times on our podcast you've quoted the Daily Mail.
I've got to be consistent.
I know. I just hope you're part of that aging, dying readership of the Daily Mail.
How dare you. Yeah. But no, sweating like a pig actually comes from smelting pig iron. And when it cools down, it sort of loads of sweat. Basically.
Sorry, mate. my lack of knowledge. What's pig iron?
Pig iron's your early form of iron production. When you're getting it from iron ore, the first processing bit and heating bit turns it into and purifies it a wee bit into pig iron. So there you go. So cooling it down. Although if you look at the internet, it suggests that when the bits that drop off of that as it's in a molten state that land on the floor are kind of pig. They're in the shape of piglets and pigs, and that's why people call sweating like a pig. But that's 2 levels removed from what's logical. It's just that when the metal, the basic ore turned into pig iron cools down, it actually has beads of liquid on the outside, and you go, oh God, I'm sweating like the pig iron, and you're boiling hot if you're in that environment while it's doing it. So no evidence that it was used before the Industrial Revolution.
Really? Aside from all the benefits of sweat, are there any negatives to humans around sweat other than the fact, makes you smell?
Yeah, it's the social stigma.
Yeah.
I mean, that natural smell of sweatings, we should smell like. We smell so chemically and eye-wateringly bad. If you have a lot of indigenous peoples that don't use it, come across us with our antiperspirants and deodorants, then they actually, it can be really repulsive for them, the chemical smells.
Yeah, I can imagine it would be.
And I have heard that
to be honest, the stuff that you wear, mate, is pretty repulsive. I thought high karate wasn't being manufactured ananymore.
Yeah, well, it's really old. And also I bought it on the street corner in Tottenham Court Road, so it smells like cat's wee after about
in
2 hours.
1987.
Yeah,
it lasts forever, those big bottles.
Yeah, it's really old. And of course, antiperspirants and deodorants are different. Antiperspirants stop you perspiring, whereas deodorants stop you smelling. They don't stop you actually sweating. And that's probably a good thing, because if you block up the pores in your armpits, for example, as you do with margarine for some reason.
Gotta love slapping on some margarine in the morning.
Then you can overheat, or you can get hotter, and you tend to sweat from other areas. So you have a lot more sweat on your forehead, or your inside your elbows or groin sweats a lot more, or your back. So it does have this over extension thing, or this compensation. So if you blocked your armpit pores, then you sweat from elsewhere more.
I feel like we've done a real good to society here, Dazza. This podcast alone should bring sweat shaming to an end, and people can sort of, if you're sweating, you're a bit smelly, people can refer to this podcast and say, no, I'm helping the human race evolve.
Yeah, exactly. And it's greatly underappreciated.
It's like a community service, mate. Thank you for sharing with why we should. Have I missed anything, mate? Is there anything else you wanted to add to your?
Not really, no. I think we've exhausted sweating.
Oh, there you go. Thanks for listening. So next time you're sweaty, just think of Darren and the podcast. Thanks for watching. If you like Budge, How to Fudge Being Human, then please press subscribe on YouTube. You can also connect with us in our Facebook group, which is pretty active actually. It's quite a good laugh, and we often put all the guests on there for people to share questions with the guests. So jump onto the podcast Facebook group, as well as there's actually a Facebook page. You can also connect with me and Darren directly on LinkedIn, and you can follow us on TikTok and Instagram. We've got all the socials covered these days, mate.
Brilliant.
Yep. So we'll be out 7 a.m. Tuesdays is when the podcast comes out. So once you finish listening to this one, make sure you subscribe for next Tuesday. But until then, make sure you go back and watch the last one, which was a cracker too. Thanks for listening to us talk about sweat.
No sweat.
Boy, Budge.